Hello and welcome back to News Bytes. This week's newsletter is called Rebellion Against Authority, and it's on Luke 20, 1-26. From Eliyahu. Shalom, friends. It is never a good idea to rebel against legitimate authority. However, it is sometimes a must to refrain from obeying acclaimed authority that is not legitimate or which is issuing illegitimate orders. In either case, the decision to obey or not obey can be a life or death matter. How so? The consequences of rebellion against authority are well known throughout history and have often led to punishment and even death. Less well known is the fact that obeying illegitimate authority has also been proven by history to be potentially lethal. No doubt, the best examples of the death penalty for obeying illegitimate orders in modern times are the Nuremberg trials. The Nuremberg trials were a series of 13 trials carried out in Nuremberg, Germany between 1945 and 1949 in the wake of World War II in Europe. At that time, there was no precedent for an international trial of war criminals. The Allies established the laws and procedures for the Nuremberg trials with the London Charter of the International Military Tribunal issued on August 8, 1945. The IMT established the necessary legal structure for the first International Court of Justice to convene. Hitler, Heinrich Himmler, and Joseph Goebbels had each committed suicide in the spring of 1945 before they could be brought to trial. 24 other individuals were indicted and tried in the trial of major war criminals, along with 6 Nazi organizations determined to be criminal, such as the Gestapo or secret state police. One of the indicted men was deemed medically unfit to stand trial, while a second man killed himself before the trial began. The defendants included Nazi Party officials and high-ranking Nazi military officers, along with German industrialists, lawyers, and doctors who were indicted on charges related to Nazi war crimes. 3 categories of crimes were involved. Crimes against peace, including planning, preparing, starting, or waging wars of aggression or wars in violation of international agreements. War crimes, including violations of customs or laws of war, including improper treatment of civilians and prisoners of war, and crimes against humanity, including murder, enslavement, or deportation of civilians or persecution on political, religious, or racial grounds. The majority of the accused had essentially the same defense, which has come to be known as the Nuremberg defense. What is that? Those defendants claimed that they were not guilty of the charges against them because they were only following orders. This should be of interest to all of us because the excuse "I was only following orders," or in other words, "I was just doing my job," remains a common refrain whenever the specter of abuse of authority raises its ugly head. So how did that defense work out for the defendants at Nuremberg who claimed that they were only following orders? In the end, the International Tribunal found all 3 of the defendants guilty. 12 were sentenced to death, 1 in absentia, and the rest were given prison sentences ranging from 10 years to life behind bars. 10 of the condemned were executed by hanging on October 16, 1946. Hermann Göring, Hitler's designated successor and the head of the Luftwaffe, German Air Force, committed suicide the night before his execution with a cyanide capsule he had hidden in a jar of skin medication. Following the trial of major war criminals, there were 12 additional trials held at Nuremberg. Of the 185 people indicted in the subsequent Nuremberg trials, 12 defendants received death sentences, 8 others were given life in prison, and an additional 77 people received prison terms of varying lengths. What do the Nuremberg trials tell us about obeying authority? Essentially, as a human being, you are expected to have a brain and a conscience and not to blindly follow immoral orders. "I'm just doing my job" does not absolve subordinates of responsibility for their criminal actions under color of law. Color of law means the appearance of an act being performed based upon legal right or enforcement of statute, when in reality no such right exists. Ultimately, all legitimate rights originate with the Creator, and all violations of such God-given rights are illegal and immoral, putting those rights beyond the authority of any human or institution to circumvent by human law. The commandment of Elohim is clear. Keep far from a false charge and don't kill the innocent and righteous, for I will not justify the wicked. Exodus 23:7. To refuse to obey an order or a law of any human authority which would require one to disobey the commandments of the Creator is not rebellion against authority. On the contrary, to do so when necessary is to uphold the highest authority, the only authority from which all true authority springs. Therefore, when believers are forced by unrighteous laws to ignore those unrighteous laws that are in conflict with the higher law of the Creator, to do so is not an act of rebellion. Rather, it is a choice to obey God as ruler rather than men. It takes courage to make such a stand, so prepare yourself in advance to face that challenge if and when it comes your way. Yeshua in Luke 20 tells us a lot about true authority and false authority, and as we have seen above, understanding this distinction is vital. These kinds of issues can arise suddenly, so understanding and remembering Messiah's teaching on authority could be essential to any of us at any time. That's completely true. I would also like to add, if I may, if you are submitting to illegitimate authority instead of Yahweh's authority, then you are in true rebellion of authority. And besides watching the teaching that went along with this video, I'd like to mention that going through the Exodus programs where Moses received the commandments and laws from Yahweh is also an excellent place to get to know what Yahweh expects of you. And I don't just mean his laws and what you're supposed to follow, but actually studying the laws and the provisions he makes for different situations and for different people. It really shows his character and his heart, and you kind of just get to know him and why he has those certain laws, and then you can know how he would handle certain situation. To just sum this up real quick is that through the Torah, like I mentioned, you just get to know Yahweh more and more. So besides watching the video that went along with this, if you can, sign up at Zion.net, and I would encourage you to listen to the programs, especially through the Torah course, because it's not just learning the laws and commandments, it's really getting to know Yahweh and the foundation of a strong, intimate relationship and getting to know him and his voice, because there's going to be decisions you're going to have to make between life and death in the times ahead of us. So you need to know when he's telling you to do something and be able to hear him, and whether you listen to him or not is up to you. So with that, I would like to thank you for watching, and if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, leave your thoughts and comments down below, watch the video here, and join me again next week.